everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Show and Sell, the Power of Animated Videos. We appreciate everyone joining us today for our very first webinar of 2017. Before we start the program, I'll just go over a few quick housekeeping items. We're probably going to have a lot of questions about what we're seeing today, so we're leaving some time at the end of the presentation for Q&A. You can go ahead and send in your questions as they come up for you, and we'll put them in the queue to be answered at the end. To send a question, simply click on the Questions tab on your control panel, type your question into the top box, and then click on the Send button. I'll receive it, and like I said, I'll put it into the queue to be answered at the end of the webinar. If you have any technical difficulties during the presentation, please use that same question feature to get my attention, and I'll do my best to resolve the problem. We're also going to have a couple polls during today's webinar, and so we encourage you to participate in those. A screen will just pop up when we're talking about the polls, and then you can input your answer. It's pretty straightforward, but just wanted to give you a heads up that that will be happening. We will be providing you with a recording of the webinar as well as a copy of the PowerPoint slides, so keep an eye on your inbox for a link to those later today or tomorrow. Now let's get started. I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers, Shelby Marshall and Sarah Ditkoff, who are both with Fablevision, an award-winning multimedia design and development firm that just celebrated their 25th anniversary last fall. Shelby is Vice President of Strategic Partnerships and Product Solutions with Fablevision. He works closely with clients and partners to explore potential partnership opportunities and to map out the strategy and ecosystem for complex projects. He has a bachelor's in biology from Cornell University, an MAT Museum Education from George Washington University, and more than 35 years of experience designing and producing educational materials and experiences, including countless software products, websites, animated films, and books. Shelby is a director of Games for Ed, an active member of the Association of American Publishers, and a member of the Museum Computer Network. Shelby is joined today by Sarah Ditkoff, who is the Marketing and Client Services Manager for Fablevision. Like many of you, she balances her day between marketing, business development, and creating proposals. And she's also responsible for the studio's communication efforts. Sarah works closely with new and current studio clients to explore creative partnership and project opportunities, acts as liaison between their teams and the studio in the early project planning stages, and identifies opportunities to amplify marketing and outreach efforts through studio channels near the end of the production cycle. She holds a master's degree in publishing and writing from Emerson College. We're really excited to have Shelby and Sarah with us today. They've got a lot of information as well as a lot of really wonderful videos to share with us. So I'm going to go ahead and hand the program over to them.
Thank you, and welcome everybody. It's really a pleasure to share our enthusiasm about animated film with you. We just think animated films are fabulous ways to tell stories and to engage people. And it's going to be a lot of fun to go through what makes them great. So we'll just tell you very quickly a little bit about Fablevision and then move into the presentation. For those who don't know, Fablevision is an educational media developer. We're in Boston, and we create a whole range of kinds of media, marketing, educational of all sorts for publishers, classroom, nonprofits, museums, you name it. So we do a lot of animated film. We do games, websites, mobile apps, quite a range. And we are master storytellers. So animated film is actually one of our favorite media to work in. So here's what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to actually do a little bit of overview about why use video for marketing in the first place. And then if you are thinking about using video, then what are the benefits of animated video? They have huge benefits, and for many uses, they're actually a better choice than live action video. And it's good to be clear about what they're good for and how to take advantage of those strengths. We'll give you an overview of several of what animated videos are and the variety of kinds of animated videos, and prepare you, hopefully, to make great use of them in your marketing campaigns. So before we get going, we always want to find out from you if you have used video for marketing at all, any kind of video.
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
That's great.
All right. Super. So then, you probably don't need us to tell you this, but there are a lot of good reasons for using video and for marketing, and we'll just jump through this very quickly since you obviously know that video is useful. And video is becoming one of the most powerful and effective marketing tools for online businesses. Clearly, you're finding it to be that way as well. Because as you know, most people are visual learners, and even if they're not visual learners per se, our brains are wired to retain more information when more than one sense is engaged. So watching a video with sound is actually a more effective way to get somebody to remember stuff than if they just read text or just look at pictures. So you can see that data. You may know that stuff already, but we can move on to.
So this is one of the first samples that we're going to be talking about today. One of the things that you initially think about when you're going to be creating a video for marketing purposes is how is this going to be found? And there are a lot of different platforms out there and a lot of different venues where you can share this video that you've created, but there are sites like the big ones, like YouTube or like Vimeo. YouTube has actually reported that their users spend more than 3 billion hours every month watching videos on their site. Search engines really like videos. It makes your site healthy in search engine searches. And this was one of the things that we considered when we created this animated series called Good Thinking, the Science of Teaching Science for the Smithsonian Science Education Center. We're going to be showing you a trailer that we created for this animated series. It's a free animated professional development series, and it specializes in taking complex scientific concepts like gravity, deep space, energy, and really makes them fun and approachable. The actual target audience for this series is elementary level science educators. So we thought that animation would be the perfect medium to create a really engaging, approachable, humor-filled series for science educators. So we're going to show you a sample of that right now.
The Smithsonian Science Education Center presents a new original series featuring the best ideas and findings from research on the science of teaching science, starring yours truly and some characters that have been hanging around my classroom for a long time.
Children need to find ways to make sense of the world around them. We all do.
Journey into students' minds to observe commonly held scientific misconceptions.
Hey, the human brain is a complex and wonderful thing.
Pick up new ways to explore science concepts in your classroom. To learn more about the Good Thinking series, visit us at scienceeducation.si.edu/goodthinking.
So the great thing about this animated series, for one, of course, is it's really dynamic, right? Like there's a lot happening there. It's super colorful, there's great music, the writing is really pithy, and especially when you're using animation, it's really shareable, right? There's something that's really compelling there. So for this specific series, there were 15 animated episodes, and then we also created this trailer. So think about something that's really shareable. Think about something that people are going to want to tell people about. You know, animation is a really great way to get people excited and to share ideas that might be a little bit more complex or hard to explain in a really easily approachable way. So taking things like a scientific concept that's not tangible, there's a great way to illustrate that through animation. That's always something to be considered when you're thinking about creating a marketing video.
So we thought, you may or may not know this, but just a kind of a quick, almost big picture stuff, is that when you think about using video, whether animated or live action, you're going to reach people and your customers at all levels. And it's interesting to think about that even people at the top levels of organizations want to watch videos. They would prefer to watch a video than just to read text. So whoever you're trying to reach, video is a really powerful tool. And one other thing that we wanted to just bring up, and we're going to kind of circle back to this a little bit later, don't think about video as simply an online medium. Video works everywhere. Anywhere that people are going to be able to see a screen is a place where you can use video. Because even if you're doing a trade show or a presentation in a school or wherever, people will have, it'll have more impact if you incorporate video in your presentation. So now we're going to dig into the comparison of live action and animated video and get into what animated videos are good for. And before we do, we want to get a sense of which kinds of video you have used. So we'll do a quick poll here. Okay, so and that shows really the state of affairs that we kind of expected, and it's pretty much the way things are. A lot people are more familiar with using live action video. They kind of know what to expect. They know how to handle it than they are with animated film. Even so, I tickled that half of you have used animated film. That's really cool. So great. We're going to help you all understand why and how to use animated film. There we go. So there are definitely good reasons to use live action video, and you can see them on the side there. Animated video is particularly good for, as Sarah was saying, if you're having complex concepts that you need to simplify. It's great for if you have data or statistics that you need to get across in a way that is really digestible and approachable. And interestingly, in terms of, again, the way our brains work, anthropologists report that illustrations are actually a more powerful communication tool than just photos or even live action videos, because illustrations tap into symbolic communication, and symbols and symbolic communication is innate in everybody's brain. So we just respond to the kind of abstraction, in fact, that's in animated film. And interestingly, one thing I discovered is that HubSpot, Video Brewery, and Switch Video, which collect kind of examples of best examples of videos. Out of 50 best explainer videos that they collected, only 7 are not animated. So animated video is really, really powerful for getting across ideas. Also, it's great for incorporating humor, and humor is just a really great way to get people hooked and keep them interested.
And imagination too. Yeah. I think there's something imaginative about it.
Yeah. And that's really important. That basically, if you need to or want to show something that isn't literally available to point a camera at, then you need animated video. Yeah. You can show stuff that doesn't actually exist, and which means you can make stuff up that is just interesting and different.
And in terms of just to jump in really quickly, in terms of the storytelling piece of it, there are a lot of vehicles that you can use for getting across a compelling marketing message. You can use things like storytelling, like characters that maybe you can flesh out a little bit more, or in a more imaginative way than you might be able to with live action. You can use things like metaphor to really use something that's like what you're actually selling or trying to promote, but isn't actual, the literal product or project. There's a lot of different options that you can use with the animation that live action might otherwise be more limiting for.
And there are also some practical things, like if you're going to create a series of videos, you may not be able to rely on getting the same live talent and production setups to do every single one of them, over time. Or if you know that you are going to have to update content at some point, whether it's graphics or data or change the script or something, or you want to be able to produce this this video in different languages down the road. There are things like that are just a lot easier to handle when you're working with animation.
There's also the potential, I think, for live action, not across the board, not generally speaking, but there is always the potential for live action film to become dated. Styles change, fashion changes. The world is changing really rapidly, and animation can potentially have a little bit more shelf life as well.
And also, in terms of the sort of interest level and imagination, you can sometimes, thinking about cost, because cost often comes up, you can sometimes produce a quick kind of, just point a camera at a person, put them in a room, point a camera at them, kind of live action video, quickly and inexpensively, and it's probably not going to be all that engaging. You can keep the cost down, and this is a general rule of thumb, and it's not by any means something that I would swear will always happen. But I think that very often the ways that you would find to cut costs and speed on live action film are things that are going to ultimately mean you have to trade off some creativity. So, so what are the different kinds of animated video? There are broad categories, and different people who work in animated video think of it in different ways. Slice it up in different fashions. But this is pretty much how we think of it. Whiteboard animation and you've seen those. Motion graphics. We're gonna show you examples of all these. Full animation. Some people call them cartoons. Cartoons are kind of a subcategory of full animation. It's kind of tough when somebody says, "Oh, I'm not interested in cartoons. I don't want animation." Well, yeah, okay. You don't have to have cartoons. You can have animation without cartoons. Some people think about something called kinetic typography as separate from motion graphics, which basically you're working with fonts, with type. Practically speaking, if you're just going to have words on the screen, we'd rather see more than just that. So, even though kinetic typography exists as a type, we honestly don't really see the point in separating it out.
Or there's just so much more that you can do. Like, if you're going to commit yourself to using that medium, you might as well take advantage for all the creativity that medium allows you to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we're gonna show you examples of these, and before we do, we want to just kind of again, big picture, think about the different kinds of uses of animated video. And this is again the way we think about it when we're planning out videos and working with clients. Mission and message. So this is typically, the organization, the company, or even maybe an imprint or something. It has a mission. It has a message it wants us across. That this is us. This is our purpose in life. This is what inspires us. We want to inspire you. So it's telling the story. It's emotional, kind of tugging, and it's something that is really there to get people to identify with and get excited about, something bigger than just, oh, this is going to be a good product for me. It's a larger kind of idea. And then explain, introduce, basically, and this is, you run into the term if you're ever having, explainer videos. Basically, if you're trying to persuade somebody to buy a product, for example, you need to explain how it works and what its benefits are. You need to introduce it. You don't know this thing yet, and here it is, and here's how it works, and here's what's cool about it. Now you're going to want to know more, or to buy it, or to follow up in some way. And then lastly is teaching videos, like the ones in that series that we showed you, the Science Education Center. Though the videos teach, the trailer is more of the explainer introducer. So we use a trailer to get you to want to check out the real videos, and the real videos teach you stuff. So we're actually not going to show you an example of whiteboard animations. We're sure you've seen them, and they have their uses. But honestly, from our perspective, they got very trendy. They got a little bit overused, and they can be inexpensive. But again, to keep costs down on whiteboard animation means sacrificing some creativity, some possible creativity that we think you'd be better off just moving to motion graphics for most uses, because they give more flexibility and more interesting visually. And so we're going to actually show you an example of a motion graphic, very simple motion graphic video that we think is a good example of how you can use sound design, have more interesting visual material than what you might find in a whiteboard animation.
Yeah. And this is also a great example of how to expand upon the story of your product, to expand upon the piece that you're ultimately trying to persuade people to buy, or increase awareness of, or teach people about. So this is a book that was published last year by Macmillan, a unicorn named Sparkle. We created an animated marketing video for the book to help promote it and to get the word out. So this is a good mix, a good example of a mix of typography, illustrations, and very simple animations. Motion graphics can be good for presenting statistics, but they can also be a really great way to leverage assets that already exist and then create something unique from that. So I'll show you the video now. So the unique thing about this animated trailer is that this is not an animated version of the book. This was a script that we wrote that conveys the messages and the story, the core story of the book, without actually giving away the full experience of taking the book home and reading that full story that Amy Young wrote herself. So we created the script for the book, we did all the sound design, motion graphics, animation, and this funny, cute, promotional piece is something that is really shareable. It's really cute. It's really persuasive. It really, gets people excited about the book in a promotional way. And this video was hosted on YouTube and on Vimeo, and then was embedded within Macmillan's site. So again, that goes back to that, great SEO, super shareable, great way to share and get people excited about the book before it was released.
So now we're going to show you a couple of different examples of full animation. And the way we think about full animation is you can do something that's fairly simple in terms of the illustration style and animation style, and yet it's still a fully animated video. And then you can do something that is more rich and complex, and we're going to show you an example of each one.
Yep, so this is an animated video that we created for Edmund. This is for a new program that they were rolling out. It's for a high school to adult age audience. It's 90 seconds long. And this is a good example of using metaphor and story to really push those storytelling boundaries to create a really compelling piece. So I'll show you that right now.
And again, this is a marketing piece.
Yes, yes.
Knowing what you want to achieve is the key to increasing your success in school, at work, and in life. Because once you know the goal, everything else is just a matter of taking the steps to reach it. And whether it's acing your science fair presentation or conquering the next level in your favorite video game, knowing how to take action will help you get where you want to go. The minute you choose to aim for a goal, you'll be ready to run. There will always be obstacles to achieving any goal. Some of them external, and some internal. And because you're human, sometimes you'll make mistakes. Just remember that it's a challenge and keep doing your best. Sometimes it may feel like you're moving in slow motion, but reaching out for help when you need it can help you reach major milestones, which will feel like power-ups. You can measure your success by checking things off your list. And just remember that with each step, you're always moving forward to your goal. Achieving anything you set your sights on is a journey. Charting a path and monitoring your progress gives you the power to make your journey a success.
Yeah, so that was an animated marketing video that we did for Informed Journeys, which is a goal-setting program. It has a very highly stylized look and feel. They wanted something with a really graphic approach, and then we decided, to use the concept of goal setting and this sort of, digital adventure video game mashup into something that's really unique and, provides a character that is relatable, is looking to do well, to move forward, and using that sort of, gamification or gamifying setting, we were able to kind of do a simulation in a way that doesn't actually show the program that they're selling, right? Like you don't actually see the program that they're selling, but it conveys that essence of moving forward and what that goal setting experience would be like using their program.
And you can see one of the important aspects of that video, somewhat present in the Sparkle, the unicorn video, but much more so here, is the whole notion of making an emotional connection with the viewer. You're not going to, Edmund wasn't going to persuade people to sign up just on the basis of things like cold hard facts about their likelihood to get a particular outcome from their work in this course. What they needed to do was get people to feel like, wow, this is exciting. I care. This is me. I can see myself in there, and I want to achieve what they're telling me I can.
Yeah.
So here's an example of what we would call a complex full animation. It's a richer, a more richly envisioned and produced production.
Yeah, and so this is an animation that's made for adults. We made this for a company called Filmetrics. They're the world's sales leader in thin film thickness measurement. And that's kind of hard to understand if you don't know what that means. Like, I didn't know what that meant before we worked with them. So they wanted to create 2 animated videos that helped convey the intricacies of their business to a wide audience. So we did 2 videos for them. They wanted both to be instructive, fun, but also relay those really, you know, important concepts about their business. And there's something about this piece too that's reminiscent of the Science Education Center Good Thinking videos, where, you know, this is a really complex topic that's made really fun and approachable, and also incorporates a little bit of humor.
Why, it's Mr. Squirrely taking a quiet bath. Ah, so relaxing. Mr. Squirrely, have you ever wondered why you can see so many colors in your soap bubbles? Would you like to find out? Of course you would. A soap bubble is a thin film, but its thickness varies across the surface. Because light is made up of red, green, and blue light waves, different amounts of each color are reflected off the surface. Let's find out why. Light is a wave, and different color light waves have different wavelengths. When a light wave hits the surface of a translucent film, some of it is reflected off the upper surface, some is reflected off the bottom surface, and the rest passes right through. Here is a blue light wave hitting the surface of a bubble. As you can see, some of the wave is reflected off the top, some is reflected off the bottom, and some passes right through. In this spot, the thickness of the bubble corresponds to the length of the wave. So, the waves that reflect off the top and bottom of the bubble line up perfectly, sending a very strong blue signal back into the air. Now, suppose a red light wave is hitting the same part of the bubble. Because red light waves are longer, the portions that reflect off the top and bottom surfaces do not line up. They cancel each other out and do not create a very strong red reflection. However, if the bubble was thicker, then the red light waves would line up and the blue light waves would cancel each other out, making the bubble appear red. We can plot how much light is reflected for the entire color spectrum. This bubble has lots of blue, some green, and very little red, so it appears greenish-blue. Since we know how long light waves are, we can look at the color of the bubble and determine the thickness. I'll bet you never thought bath time could be so educational. See, Mr. Squirrely? Measuring thin films is good, clean fun.
So this is a great example of humor, right? There's some really subtle, funny things that happen there, but it's also really compelling and it's really informative. It really takes a complex topic and turns it into something that's really easy to understand in an everyday context without feeling like you're being spoken down to. And again, this was a marketing video that Filmetrics created to really help explain their services. It's a promotional piece for what they do, but they're not necessarily selling something there. It's an explainer video.
So we're going to show you just a little bit of one other example that we didn't actually tell you was coming, and that is a combo of live action and animation. Because even though we've been talking as though the two live in separate worlds, in fact you can bring them together, and sometimes that can be really effective. So we're going to just show you a little bit of one animated video that, combo live action animated video.
Yeah, so this is a marketing video that Achieve 3000 made with Fablevision. They're a leader in online differentiated literacy instruction. So this is a good example of a mission video. It explains their approach, how it's really important to them to foster learning and help all learners reach their full potential. So this is a good example of something that's a little bit more emotionally appealing and uplifting. We're just going to show a little bit of this.
Kids are great at dreaming. Their imaginations have no limits. They want to change the world. And some of them will change the world. But sadly, many will not. $32 million Americans can't read sufficiently. 40 million never graduate from high school. By 2018, 63% of jobs will require a college education. Success will depend on 21st century literacy skills that go way beyond memorization. The good news is there are new Common Core state standards that focus on building reading comprehension and fluency, developing writing skills, and improving vocabulary.
I'd like you to take out your tablets.
They also emphasize innovative use of technology and digital media.
All right, so we're going to move on just because we have a few other things we want to cover, but we are going to send everyone a link at the end so that you can rewatch any of these videos or finish watching this one if you're interested. So you saw a bit of animation there. There's definitely some more later on in the piece. But it really shows those sort of imaginative ways that you can convey more of an atmosphere. It can take a live action video and just bring something a little bit more unique and surprising to it.
So now that you've seen some different things, let's look at kind of the takeaways here. How do you what do you need to think about when you're considering using animated film, animated video? Basically, you want to choose a style that effectively meets your needs. It fits your audience, and that includes where and how they'll view it. It fits your budget and timeline, of course, and it supports your long-term plans. And that's important because you want to create something that's going to have some kind of not only shelf life but be useful in whatever the long-term vision is for the product development or the organization. Consider then, do you want to develop a series of videos? Is it a series of products? Do you need to update them at some point? Are you going to show them in different contexts or platforms? So you might want to have them on your website and Facebook and YouTube. We recommend that. You might need to show them at trade shows or in meetings or in presentations. If you're going to use a video at a trade show or a conference, it may need to run without sound. So if that's the case, then you want to get your message across entirely through the graphics. And then another thing to think about is in terms of long-term plans, well, you need longer and shorter versions. So you need, let's say, a 2-minute full story on your website, a 60-second short that will go on YouTube, a 10-second teaser that will show somewhere else. Think about that in planning if you can. I mean, you can always go back and edit and modify, add languages or whatever. But it's good to have as big a picture as you can starting out. And then some tips for using animated videos for marketing, and of course some of this is true for using animated videos for anything, is really what it comes down to is think about the viewer's experience. You always got to think about the viewer. And that means that when you begin to plan, one of your first things is, what do you want your audience to know, feel, or do as a result of watching the video? You need to know what your outcome is going to be, what your intended outcome is going to be. And then make sure that you wrap up, as we have down there, end with a call to action. Whatever your outcome is, put it in there. Don't just build, you want to build the video around that outcome and construct it in such a way, but you also want to make sure that by the time they're done, you've brought them to that point in their thinking. And again, think about, hosting teasers, using the videos in various places. Get as much traffic as you can back to your own website where you can get people to engage with the stuff that's really the meat of what you're trying to sell. And you know, just a small thing, make sure your branding is consistent throughout the video. Not, you know, the tone, visually tie it into branding that is going to be recognizable in other aspects of your business. So, so concluding, you know, why use video for marketing? We think you probably knew a lot of this already as far as the big picture. It reaches people. It reaches people where they are. It's effective. When should you use animated video? When you don't need to show actual people or actual products. When you want to get creative. When you may need to update it or make variations. Choose the type of animated video that meets your needs, appeals to your audience, fits your budget and your timeline, works within your long-term plans. Use animated videos for different kinds of things, to convey mission, to explain, and to teach. And be clear about your intended outcomes and engage the viewer, get them to care, and deliver a call to action.
And then follow through. And and I think ultimately this is about generating connections with your end user, with your audience. Use this as a catalyst to start that conversation, and make sure that that video or that animation fits within your bigger plan to hit that mark.
So one last poll.
Great.
Wow. That's fantastic. We didn't expect unanimous. Thank you. And then we have one more question.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. I think that first learning of a new medium is always something that you need to wrap your head around, and that's something we get to talk to people who are at every single stage of their project planning process. People who have an idea but they're not really sure of the first way to go about it, and some people have completed something but they're looking to try something different or to update what they've already done. And definitely feel free to follow up with us directly. We'd love to chat with you and throw some ideas around.
Yeah, absolutely. And we figured that at least some of you were going to say no there. And of course, honestly, this is such a brief introduction that that we really want to give you whatever kind of support we can to pursue this. If you are interested, I mean, clearly you are interested in using animated film, but you're not quite ready to do so. So really get in touch. We'd be happy to, as Sarah said, chat, give you some feedback, some ideas, some insights, and help you move along the path. So there are our email addresses, and you can check out our website for more examples of things.
We're happy to take some questions.
Oh, and one. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Sarah and Shelby. I really enjoyed watching all those videos, and they definitely got my brain kind of in gear with thinking of some creative ways to use animated video. And as Shelby and Sarah said, you can see lots more examples on their websites. You can also reach out to them at their email addresses with additional questions. We are going to answer some questions that have come here in a second. And I really do encourage you to learn more about Fable Vision and all the great work they're doing and to help you share your story. I think it's a wonderful medium, and they're a creative, talented group of people that can really help you differentiate your product and get noticed by the educators that you want to be paying attention to you. All right, so let's dive into some questions. So the first question we got is, how long does it usually take to create an animated video?
It really depends. It really depends on what stage you are in your planning process. It depends how long it is. It depends how complex it is. It can take anywhere from 6 weeks to several years. It really depends. You know, the first sample that we showed, the Science Education Center series, that was a 1.5-year long project, but that was 125 minutes of animation. You know, that's like feature film length in terms of content. For the smaller explainer pieces, they can take just a few weeks. So it really depends.
I think that we've had situations where there was just a super crunch, and we just settled on a very simple script and a very simple animation style. In some cases, like, okay, we won't even use narration. We'll just use sound effects and music, and we could knock a really, not cheap. I mean, knock a really good looking animated film out in like 2-3 weeks. But if time is that kind of constraint, you've got to really plan it carefully.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like any creative project. You got to put the time in to get the result that you really want. So, but that framework was helpful, I think. Are there any tools, software tools that you can recommend to create animations?
Again, it depends on the style that you're looking for. We use a lot of Toon Boom software here in the studio. The style, again, will really influence the software that we use. But we use a whole Adobe Creative Suite here at the studio, as well as Toon Boom software.
It's hard to say what to recommend, because honestly, the tools are just tools. If you want to create animation, you need to be an animator. It's like saying, I've never painted a picture before. Can you recommend what kinds of paints and brushes to use? Well, you need to learn how to paint. So, I mean, I don't want to be condescending or anything, but honestly, if you're looking to try to create animated film in-house, you need to find the right kind of talent, and then they'll use whatever tools that they have mastery of. I mean, we still use Flash sometimes. It's a fantastic animation tool, and then we can publish out the final video in a form that can be viewed on on whatever platform is necessary.
Right.
So it's really you're not although we do have an animation product that you can learn how to make an animated film in about 90 seconds, but I wouldn't recommend it for public use.
Yeah.
Yep, that makes sense totally. So at the end, this question actually came in before you mentioned this, but at the end of the presentation, you talked about the importance of making sure that the animated videos are aligned with your brand. And this person had a question just that their brand is kind of a more serious, formal brand. So how would you kind of marry those two things when maybe that animated style that's really colorful and bold and the humor kind of stuff doesn't necessarily fit with the brand?
Well, that's really what you're talking about is a graphic approach, and we were showing you stuff that's more illustrative and fun, but you'll see when you get the PowerPoint presentation, the very last slide, the very last page.
Oh, yeah, I can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. We've put together this project gallery with some of the examples you've seen today and some other things that we didn't show. And one of them, you'll see that the third one over on top is EduCurious mission animation. That is largely motion graphics. It is a more clean, professional looking, because that was
it's very sleek.
Yeah, and that was the look that the organization had. Actually, we created the logo for them. So honestly, the branding, it's a really important question, and it's a great question. Thank you for asking it, because we don't want to give the impression that animated film has to look, cartoony.
Right.
As we said in the beginning, it can look like anything, because people are creating it, and you just need to depend on the skill of your designers, the illustrators, and animators to fit whatever the brand characteristics are. And we're often given a brand Bible and say, here's what you've got to work with. Here's the colors, the fonts, the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that, there's a way to create an animated film, even if it's more serious in tone, that doesn't mean that it can't be creative. I think that there are a lot of ways you can get a serious message across and still have a more serious tone, but still have it be, a good viewing experience for your audience. I don't think that seriousness has to equal boring. It shouldn't. It doesn't have to. There are ways to push the envelope in different ways to still create something that's compelling and engaging.
And I think that is a quote I'm going to take into the future with me, that serious doesn't have to be boring. So in terms of length, do you recommend using, I think this is marketing in particular, do you recommend creating a lot of short videos or doing a longer video that covers multiple points?
I think context is king there. How is this going to be seen? Are you creating something purely for sharing over social media? Then, yeah, probably you're going to want to create something that's on the shorter side. Is this going to be a longer piece that you want to share during a big presentation, or is this going to be an actual piece of content within a lesson that you're sharing? Then the more length might be warranted. I really think it depends on context.
But I think that in general, specifically for marketing, you probably want to look at 3 minutes max.
Max, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, beyond that, you're going to lose people. Typically, if you can do it in less than 2 minutes, that's even better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people's attention spans are so short these days, and particularly when it's a marketing thing, you've just got to grab them quicker. Yep. Yeah. So, you mentioned early on in the presentation about the search engine optimization value of video, and we wondered if you could elaborate a little bit more on that. How are videos, how are they popular in the Google search algorithm, and how do we optimize them for SEO?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, there's numerous tabs in Google when you're searching for things, and that video tab, there's ways to add tags to your videos, there's a way to add keywords, and there's a lot of ways to kind of up the searchability of any sort of content that you create. That's something that we definitely like to talk with people about very early on in the project planning stages. How do you want this to be found? What's the best way that we can get the word out about this? But videos are always super shareable. They kind of, they make your website more dynamic. They make it easier to share. And search engines have been known to give preference to pages that include videos. So, pages with videos embedded or incorporated into them are more likely to receive backlinks.
Also, it's interesting, Google owns YouTube. So pages, so YouTube videos are good.
Yeah, they're linked into that search engine directly.
And if you have a presence on YouTube and you also embed a video on your website, and especially if you embed a YouTube video on your website, then that actually increases your chance of getting a front page search result in Google. So basically, what it comes down to is that using video makes the page more likely to rise up in the search results.
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, the whole Google algorithm and search engine optimization is one big puzzle. So this is a piece of the puzzle. And I know from my own personal work, sharing videos on social, those are often the ones that get the most likes, the most comments, the most shares. So definitely in that social media venue, you can definitely see some lift from using video. So I think we have reached the end of our time. So just another big thank you to Sarah and Shelby for joining us today and sharing all of these videos and this great information. Again, they've got the URL up there to see more of their work, and that also will put you on their website so you can find out more about their services. And do feel free to reach out to Shelby or Sarah if you would like to start talking with them about a project, because I know that they can do great work for all of you out there. Thanks everyone for joining us today. Just another reminder that you will get the email tomorrow with a link to view the recording as well as download the slides. So feel free to share that with your colleagues, or if you're trying to get budget for a video, this might help make the case for you. When you log off, you will be prompted to answer a few survey questions. There's 5 to be exact. It takes under a minute to answer them, and we do appreciate any feedback you can provide, as well as suggestions for future webinars. And finally, our next webinar is scheduled for February 22nd. We're going to be joined by Dr. Monica Burns. She is a curriculum and ed tech consultant. She's also an Apple Distinguished Educator, and she's founder of Classroom Tech Tips. She's going to be sharing her insights as an educator about how technology is being used in schools and what educators want to hear from vendors about the solutions that they're offering. So keep an eye on your inbox for more registration details as well as the Agile website. So I'm going to pause for a moment to let Shelby and Sarah sign off, and then we'll let you all go for the afternoon.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was so much fun.
This is great. We really appreciate you joining us for this. This is clearly, I hope you can tell, this is something we love and care about. And honestly, if you want to talk, even if you're not ready to do a project, but you're still kind of just gathering information and getting your head around it, we'd be happy to talk with you about it. It's something, obviously, that we know and love. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, and everybody have a great afternoon.